compared to most other industries, we agree with the statement that restoration's behind in tech.
Absolutely, yes.
Why are we so behind given the fact that there's been 30 years of tech in the space?
Alex, I think it's the same reason we're behind in everything. There's nothing really sort of new under the sun. Corporate America has figured all this stuff out. And eventually, we kind of pay attention to what they're doing, and then we adopt it for ourselves in some way. And so we follow that one. There just hasn't been it's been about people in this industry. Most are in restoration, and they're running restoration companies. It's rare that somebody like myself or like you that leaves that world and says, I'm going to leave my restoration company, but I'm going to stay in the industry and find a way to support it. The number of people that do that and do that well is relatively small. And so there hasn't been a lot of brain power, frankly, going into this effort to developing new technologies as a way of supporting and helping the industry.
The fundamental thing and why people aren't deploying capital in R&D in restoration is they don't think the industry is big enough. They don't think the industry is good enough. They don't think they'll get a return on investment. And I feel like if we could take those early bets, which we've been doing, we prove that out for the industry. Other people follow along. Sure, they're my competitors, and maybe I don't get those customers, but at the end of the day, it raises the bar for the entire industry as a whole. Welcome, everybody, to the Albee After Hours podcast, where we talk about propelling the restoration industry forward. I'm your host, Alex Duda, and today I'm excited to have Mr. John Kowalski in beautiful Punta Gorda, Florida.
Who knew?
Yeah, look at this. Look at this view here. We're nice in the shade. I don't know what river that is. We were going to go swimming in it, but then we thought there might be some crocs there, so we decided against it. Yeah. But John, thanks so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
I love the fact that we finally were able to connect, because I feel like you've been in the shadows building amazing things, right? Anthony speaks very highly of you. We have a lot of mutual clients, but kind of in the shadows, and it sounds like you're now coming out to market with some interesting things.
Yes, and I'm happy to meet you as well.
Yeah.
I think Anthony did a podcast, interviewed
you
I think, personally.
I believe so. Yep.
So it's nice to finally meet you face to face, make a connection.
So John, I have a little pet peeve of mine as it relates to data, right? In the restoration space. So obviously, Peter Drucker always says that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, famous quote and such. And at Albee, we built all kinds of amazing tools to capture data from the field to the office very easily. And we've even built BI tool, like, we have Albee Analytics where it displays the data. And now we have all these dashboards. Yeah. But fundamentally, there's this huge problem around driving adoption and teaching the behavior to the business owners so that way they could actually utilize this data to supercharge their business. What do you think about that? Is that a genuine problem in this industry?
It is. But the primary problem is they don't know what to do with the data. So I've got clients that have these gorgeous Power BI dashboards, right? Some use simple whiteboards in their office. I mean, dashboards can take any form, right? It's just a matter of accumulating data to give you the truth about the company. And so they get all this data, right? And so imagine this screen where you've got flashing red lights and green lights and arrows and pie charts and bar charts. And it's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
All this information, all this data.
Average job size, gross margin, sales by refer, revenue.
We're all tracking the same basic numbers, especially at the higher levels. The numbers all look very, very similar, the values anyway. The problem is, what the fuck do you do with the data, right? What do you do with the numbers? Most people, most business owners have never been taught how to run a company, right? So if you ever read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, he talks about the fact that most business owners are good technically at what they do, but know very little about business. Most came up just through the ranks, right? They maybe could do some mitigation jobs, right? They hire somebody, next thing they know, they need an assistant, then they have a bookkeeper, suddenly they got an office, and then there's more people, and all of a sudden they're surrounded by all this stuff, right? They have no idea what they're doing. I believe that if you survive the first 7 years in business, and many do not, that it takes another 10 to 20 years to get good at running a business. And even then, I've got clients that have been in business for decades who still don't really know what they're doing. We're all simply trying to figure it out as we go along. So sales are down. What do you do? Right? Most of them will simply hold someone's feet to the fire. Or they're going to have a meeting and we'll have a brainstorming session about what we can do to get sales back up. Or they'll just most likely just absorb that stress and take it home and eventually, have a heart attack or something, right? There's no place for this energy to go. And so they don't No one was taught.
Yeah.
No one was taught. And so what we're doing is we're connecting the dots between what the data is telling us and what specifically you should do. And I believe that that's about systems. When you think about what a business is, it's primarily a collection of systems run by people, right? Key indicators and all the metrics we're talking about simply tell us the health of those business systems. Okay? So that correlation between systems and numbers is where the magic is, right? So in our world, we have 145 key indicators on one axis. That sounds like a lot. Many of them are calculated values. And on the other axis are about 48 business systems that we've identified as being critical to the success of a company.
Wow.
That creates a matrix of almost 7,000 possible direct, indirect, or no correlation between the two. Between every key indicator and every business system.
So can you give me a concrete example of one of the 140 and one of the 70?
So one of the 145 indicators would be leads.
Okay.
Everybody's tracking and counting leads, right?
Perfect.
Just at that basic level. We've identified 8 business systems that are directly correlated with leads. All right? And so we measure the condition of those business systems such that if leads are down, right, then we can say these specific systems are underdeveloped or are missing in your company.
So smart.
And this is what you need to work on in order to close that gap, right, and to build a better company. Most business owners, I think, are so busy with solving the problem du jour, right, or dealing with transactional work that they never really be able to step outside of that. So we're trying to give them a tool that automates all of this. We can take in all the data from various platforms. Our algorithms and logic does all the hard work, does all the calculations to say, okay, in your company, you've got an accountability problem. Primarily, if you fix the accountability and you have an accountability chart, maybe using something like Scale Up or Traction, one of these other models, right? That's going to have the greatest impact on the largest number of critical underperforming key indicators. Now, this sounds really complicated, right? But the software makes it super easy by simply saying these values are underperforming, and by a lot, by the way, and these are important numbers because all 145 aren't equally as important. But it boils it all down and says, if you just worked on this one system, that's the common thread, the highest ranking system that is the common thread among all these high value indicators that are underperforming. Fix that.
How do you know what's underperforming or not? Because what's good for one company.
Against their goals.
Okay.
So that's really a great question.
Interesting.
Because we could set a standard, set a bar for this, but that would be ridiculous, right?
Yeah, and comparison is a thief of joy.
Right. So goals for company X are very different than the goals for company Y. We're not trying to turn a business into something. We want them to be whatever they want to be.
So I go in there and I say, look, I want to get to X amount of leads by the end of the year because I want to get to, I don't know, a $30 million a year company, and by your algorithm, it's like I'm falling short of that. But if I change my goals and I say, I just want to keep the status quo going, then perhaps the algorithm would say I'm not doing so bad.
Yes, exactly right.
Interesting.
That differential between the goal and the actual values, actual performance.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay, so basically, you feed this algorithm all this data, and it'll literally come back and tell you, okay, you're short on leads, and the reason you're short on leads is, I don't know, you need to go hold your BDMs accountable to these metrics, right? And there's
we would be more specific in terms of what system to develop or to improve in order to do that, because simply holding marketing reps more accountable may be part of the puzzle, but oftentimes business owners don't set their marketing reps up for success.
Interesting.
And so there's a number of other things to take a look at that we would evaluate to determine, okay, is the problem really with the marketing rep, or is there something in the system that they've created or that the marketing reps are being expected to execute that are in some way flawed or insufficient.
Interesting.
So we pinpoint it much more accurately than that.
Yeah. So you're clearly very passionate about this. Like, I can feel it. Like, I feel your passion. Where did all this start? Like, you clearly have some sort of background in restoration. If our audience can't tell, you know what you're talking about in restoration. Where did restoration start in your life? Kind of walk me through your journey, your quick bio.
Well, thank you for that question. It was actually my dad. So my father started, he was one of the people I just described, right? He was actually a printer for the Arizona Republic newspaper back in the late 60s. And he and a fellow coworker had, decided one day they were going to they wanted to be in business for themselves. And so they started a wall washing company. This was back in the days when you had machines that literally had a cord that would feed solution to a pad of towels, right? And they would literally wash the walls, okay?
Wow.
Now, what's interesting about that story is that neither one of them knew anything about wall washing, and they certainly knew nothing about how to run a business. But they did it anyway, right? And so that company eventually turned into a contents restoration company and then spun off a reconstruction company.
Interesting.
So they did okay. These were not big companies right, at the time, really. So after 16 years, my father called me up. I dropped out of grad school to come and work for the family business. And they were only doing about $350,000 in revenue for the year. So these were both small companies.
Yep.
But after 16 years, they'd survived. And so I was very curious to know how this is possible, because my father understood the technical aspects of restoration, but he still knew nothing about how to run a company. He would refer to it as, he called it loose strings in the business. That was because he didn't have the language, right? He didn't have the terminology, the business acumen to be able to describe what the problem was. But he just knew something was terribly wrong. He referred to these as all loose strings. And so it was years later when I sort of realized, after having been in the business for another 17 years, that, and working in peer groups and talking to peers, that no one knew what they were doing. And just making it up as they went along. And sometimes we survived on sheer blind luck. Other times there was maybe a peer group or a mentor or a business coach, or maybe we saw something at a conference, we read a book. We put all this information together, right, to try to figure out how to survive and how to grow.
Interesting.
And so I was inspired by my father and a lot of the business owners I met at that time, because they survived on sheer determination, hard work, and perseverance. Exactly the kind of things that you think the American dream would be all about in terms of earning that, right? And so I thought, all right, in this country, we say that small business is the backbone of the economy. We don't do jack for them. We don't do anything for them. You can go get an SBA loan. I mean, that's lovely. They'll take your home if you don't pay it back, I suppose. I don't really know what the terms are anymore. But we don't do anything. There are organizations that are trying to provide some sort of support, right? And there's minimal efforts through the SBA, especially some of the resource partners there, like SCORE and the SBDC network and these national organizations that are there. But it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. And so I feel like if I'm going to help make a difference in the world, right, a legacy, if I can make a small percentage difference in the success of small business,
that's a massive ripple.
That's a massive rippling effect. Exactly, because it's 90% of all business in the U.S. are all small companies. So I think, and I looked at the stress, like what my father went through, and what other business owners go through, cash flow crises, employee issues, arguments with partners, all sleepless nights, all these things, the price that they pay for not knowing what they're doing and just trying to survive and fight their way through it, I thought there's a chance to make that easier. These guys deserve better than that. I think if a guy has technical skills and wants to be in business, we need to have a leveler playing field. There needs to be better opportunity and better resources for them to set them up for success. Not only for them personally, but for the people that work for them, the communities that they serve, ultimately small business in general, and the economy for the country on a larger scale. So that's what inspires me. That's what motivates me.
Wow, that's huge. Have you seen Service Titan and heard of Service Titan's story and them going public?
I don't really know their story, but I've heard of the organization.
Yeah, they made, when they went public, they actually named, I think it was December 13th or something like that, the Day of the Trades. And it's really interesting how the light is now shining back on what I call the obscure corners of the economy. Like my theory is the biggest wealth of the world hides in the obscure corners of the economy, right? Like tech is sexy and all of that, but like most tech companies fail. And in fact, the amount of money that's lost on tech, it's unbelievable. And sure, you get these one or two unicorns that, go crazy. But if you really look at the trend right now, everybody's looking in these obscure corners. Cody Sanchez is going to Main Street, right? The trades are up and coming in the private equity world and such. And you're right, like the biggest backbone of the American economy is not the white collar industries. It's literally the blue collar, the small businesses. So.
It is. And I know it's probably outside the topic of this podcast, but I think that what's happening with the venture capital in the industry is bad. I'm seeing more companies failing and being destroyed. I mean, the problem seems to be on a granular level is, what happens to these companies when the owner leaves? Who cares now anymore?
I've done some investing too, and like I see that there's I think there's a fair price to pay for a restoration company and a fair growth expectation that you could have of a restoration company. And I think there's a lavish price to pay and a lavish growth expectation to have on a restoration company. So I think that the reason there's a negative taste with private equity moving into the space is they're paying such high multiples. They have an IRR that they have to target their fund to grow at 20 to 30%. If they're paying at 10x, let's say EBITDA, right, which is on the higher end, but whatever, they can't go sell it to anybody else for higher than 10x.
Right.
So now they have to force the company itself to grow at 20 to 30% year over year. And that's nearly impossible once you get to a certain scale. I mean, it's pretty gosh darn hard, right? And they look at these founder-led companies, how they went from, from 0 to $1 million of EBITDA or 0 to $2 million of EBITDA, and they go like that really quick. But it's like going from 0 to 2 is a lot easier than going from 2 to 4, and so on and so forth.
How did they expect this to happen?
Exactly.
This is wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Right? If they were able to go 20%, they'd already be doing it.
Yeah.
Simply demanding that they do doesn't change anything. There's no outcome to that. And that's, again, why I think that what I'm trying to do here is so important. Because actually I think that if they do want to grow like that, and our clients do, so the people in Pivot that are using this program, using this software, I have to check the last set of numbers, but I believe on average, leads were up 39%, revenue was up 52 or 57%, and operating profits were up over 512%.
Wow.
So we know that what we're doing works, but we're doing it methodically. We're doing it systematically. We're doing it through executing a specific program, not simply cracking the whip and saying, you need to grow, you need to... Oh,
exactly.
God, really? That's going to work?
Yep.
Right? And then this thinking that's out there, it's all about the numbers. Hey, everybody's got to get their number. Yeah, that's great. You got to have your numbers, but what do you do with them?
Yeah, but your numbers are basically a result of your people and your processes, right?
Exactly. It's measuring the condition of your business systems, the health of those systems, essentially. Right? It's like a patient laying on a bed in a hospital, right? You got that's your business.
Exactly.
And then you got all these sensors hooked up, trying to measure is this business in good condition or not, and if not, what's wrong and how do we fix that? It's easy for the medical community; they know exactly what to do if your numbers are down. In business, it's not. Those dots have not been connected until now.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that's why at this conference is why I'm going to be revealing, to the industry for the first time, to be talking about this concept, letting them know we figured this out. We've thought this through. It took many, many, many years to think through 7,000 possible combinations.
Wow.
Took a little bit of work. And somebody said, why don't you just have AI do it? And I said, that's impossible. That is people have such unrealistic expectations of what AI actually is. And they said, well, aren't you threatened by that? I said, no, of course not. If you don't tell AI what to think, it doesn't know what to think.
Yeah, you need the core model. Yeah, right? You need the core model.
It's a giant lookup table. And so if you don't tell the lookup table what to look up and the information, that has nothing to do.
Makes sense.
So, we're excited about this. We know this program works. We're getting good results, and I'm very excited. This is a great opportunity for us to start to get the word out, to get the message out that hope is on the way, and that we've got a solution for people that want to succeed in business. I think they're tired of hiring the consultants to solve the problem du jour because they don't take a holistic view of the company. Or they join peer groups where there's nothing more than groupthink going on. And the group sort of morphs into this one thing. There's no real new information coming in. They just regurgitate the same stuff over and over and over again. I've experienced that directly. And so I think we can do a lot better than that.
Interesting. So can somebody that's not a part of Pivot be and utilize the tool, or do they have to be a part of Pivot to utilize
Right now,
the tool?
no. Right now, this is exclusive to Pivot members. They've been they've been great. They've been our inspiration. They have offered countless ideas and thoughts about what this software should do, how it should do it, what numbers to track. They question everything that I do. They keep me on my toes. They're just the best people. And they've really helped kind of guide all this. And so after, I've been working on this now for probably 15 years.
Wow.
And we think we're at a point now where it's ready for prime time and ready to roll this out.
That's awesome.
But without them, I never would have gotten this far.
So really quick for those that don't know, and actually a lot of people probably don't know what Pivot is. What is Pivot?
Yeah, it's probably the industry's best kept secret is the feedback I keep getting. They hear about the program and say, where the hell have you been? We don't know anything about you. And honestly, Alex, I've been okay with that. I've really wanted to perfect this program. I've been focusing on what's important to my clients and what I can learn, and I wanted to get this right. I didn't want to just throw a wide net out there, bring in a whole bunch of clients, and not have something I could offer them that I knew worked. So every year we published the results of our members, how their business have grown with respect to leads, revenue, and operating profits. And after a number of years of producing these outrageous results, I'm like, okay, I think we're ready to start, showing our face and crawling out from underneath our rock. And so really this is the first conference that I've ever attended for the industry.
That's awesome.
Which it makes it very exciting for me. And it's been fun. I've met some really great people.
I see. So it's like a mentorship mastermind group with some coaching spiced in and then the data component?
Yeah, it's a combination of a couple of things. One is I had some past peer group experience, as I mentioned. So I took kind of the best aspects of that. And then I took the best aspects of classical consulting. And then I brought in this program, this connection between numbers and systems, and put it all together in a very unique way. So I don't know how I feel about competition. I think everybody's sort of competing against themselves in the end. I'm not going to frame it that way by any stretch. We're just all trying to do the best we can. But it is a thing where we take in the numbers, the software spits out the results, says you need to work on X. So now they can do that. They can work on that with their peers in their peer groups. Because many of them are working on similar systems, similar processes. And so they have this built-in support system to do that. On top of that, every group has facilitators who are industry experts. We just brought in some fantastic people. You probably saw this in the news. Well, first of all, Anthony Nelson, former CEO of Premier, was just a great catch for us. I love that guy. And then very recently, Debbie Bogar, who left Woodard after many years.
Congrats.
That was difficult for her. And then we talked, and she signed up with us. So we're bringing in the best talent that we can find in the industry to provide next level support on top of the peer group support. And then lastly, we have a content-rich website that provides numerous resources for members to use as they're working on these systems. So it's an accountability process. We use a board of advisors type process with the groups.
That's awesome.
So there's a high level of accountability to meet your goals and to work on the systems, especially the ones that software is recommending. So it's a complete turnkey program with an enormous amount of support. And I tell you what, I think the best thing about it are the relationships that people build in this environment. Our clients typically don't leave Pivot. I've had them for many years. I've been very blessed in that respect.
That's awesome.
And it's kind of great to see how the story ends, right? So I had a company came in about 10 years ago. They were doing about $3.5 million in a major city. They're now doing over $30 million, and they're planning their third location, successful location. So when you follow that story and you are friends with these people over a decade or more, that's pretty rewarding.
That is awesome. That's incredible. So on the Anthony front, I remember him and I were talking when he had, ended his chapter with Premier, and he was very meticulous about the home that he was going to choose for himself moving forward. I think he talked to like 40 or 50 different companies and such, and the fact that he chose Pivot speaks volumes, because I know he was very methodical. It was very culture and mission focused. So
it took us 6 months.
Wow.
It was, but I completely understood his process and fully supported it. I didn't want somebody that was going to be on this team who had second thoughts.
Of course.
And was questioning whether they had a brighter future someplace else. And so, I'm building something that will go long term. I'm not getting any younger, and so my days are numbered in this industry and working as I have been. And I'm looking for people in that age group that are going to take this over and take this, into the next 20, 30 years.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So back to, I know we have some mutual customers. Like I could think of Josiah Kessie with Innovative, Crown, and a few others.
Yes.
What do you think we can do? We should get, maybe Anthony and I should get together, see who the mutual customers are, and maybe try to connect the data sources from Albi into your tools so they get that streamlined?
Actually, that wouldn't be done through Pivot.
Okay.
So Pivot My Biz is the consulting arm of my two companies.
Okay.
Pivot Software owns Integra now, which is the name of the software program I'm describing here. So the way we're looking at this is that Pivot My Biz is essentially the support system for subscribers to the software.
Got it. Okay.
Right, and we can license Pivot My Biz and are actively looking at all construction-related service business industries.
Okay. Beautiful.
So what we're doing works for electrical contractors, plumbing contractors, all of them. Right, there's 750,000 in the U.S. alone.
Oh yeah.
So, and you know this from your own research. So and the software we can adapt to all of those. So we can have a huge user base in the software in all the industries, and then we can multiply these support systems and replicate them in other industries.
Got it.
Yeah. Because again, once the software tells you, hey, you need to have an accountability chart, or you need target marketing plans, or you need a process map, what do you do? What does that mean, right?
Yeah.
And so where do you go to get that? So that's why Pivot My Biz is there, is to provide all those resources and make it quite easy to be able to implement those systems.
Got it. And then those benchmarking reports, you publish those publicly?
No. So, make sure I understand what you mean. When we talk about our clients are getting like a 39% increase, yes, those are published. So we put those out on the website. They're on handouts at our booth over at the conference center. We're very proud to publish those. We had to cut it off at 2024 or 2023. We got a couple of clients that were waiting. They were changing their numbers. It's tax season. Everybody's going into this. They're waiting them to clean up their numbers for us. And then we will publish 2024's numbers, which by all indications are as good as, if not better than the prior years.
Got it. And other than like increases and stuff like that, like does that report go over like an average close rate or an average
we don't
job
publish
size
that data.
or anything like that? No.
We don't publish that data. That's all internal. Now, within the pivot groups themselves, one of the values that they get from us is that all that data is consolidated. So everything they're looking at in their own company, they can compare to the other companies in their group.
Got it.
Eventually, we will take all the group's data, and compile them in a way that clients can say, all right, I'm in pivot group X, and I'm a $5 million company on the East Coast. I want to know what other $5 million companies on the East Coast look like.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to anonymously provide them with that type of data.
Makes sense.
So all this is being built right now. All this code is being written.
Yep.
Everything I'd written, I had done actually in Excel. So I used a lot of Visual Basic, a lot of formulas and things like that. It's very complex, unfortunately, for Excel. We just sort of hit that wall. And now it's all being rewritten in Python and all this other stuff. So
beautiful.
We'll be able to do a lot more when that data is on that platform, which should be coming out fairly soon.
Cool. Is there anything that I should have asked that I didn't ask yet?
No, I think you asked great questions. You generously allowed me an opportunity to talk about Pivot itself, explain the software, the direction we're trying to go in, and the major problem that we're trying to solve with that. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. Thank you. No, I know that you're very in tune with this industry, and I appreciate what you're doing to raise awareness on a lot of very important issues.
I see. I think I have one last question, and the last question is, if you had a magic wand and you gave me a directive as a software founder in this industry, what is the biggest, most impactful mountain that I should climb for our industry? Maybe it's the biggest problem. Maybe it's the biggest thing to stay away from. Maybe it's the biggest thing to raise capital to be able to research and develop. What is it?
I'd go a little bit more granular. I think you and I probably have a similar problem, and that is that we're relying on people to enter data. We need accurate data for all of our systems to really work, right? So garbage in, garbage out. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of business owners who, again, are very good at their technical skills, but aren't business people by trade. So the language that we use, the terminology, even in our software platforms, we have to provide significant guidance for people to understand what it is we're asking for and how this, where to get that number from. I think we have to meet our market where it's at. And it's incumbent upon us to have a user interface and use language and design that makes it as easy as possible for users to interact with and get and receive the value out of them. And that to me has been a challenge. I mean, we're meeting that challenge, I think. But I get constant feedback from clients about software platforms that they're just too complex. They're hard to use. I remember I was on an advisory board for a very popular competitor of yours for a while, and I talked directly to their development team, and I said, stop innovating. What you have doesn't work as well as people think it should work. And you keep adding new features, and you think you're wowing your market with new features, but your fundamentals are not in order. And I'm learning that lesson. So we're starting off with a basic platform, and we will add functionality to it as we demonstrate that everything is working correctly and perfectly. right? There's a tendency to try to want to wow everybody, and we'll release this, and now it's mobile, and when your stuff doesn't work, your reputation's getting beaten up in the industry, and adding new features isn't going to solve that problem. So I think it's just a matter of simplifying data input, helping them understand where these numbers should be coming from, how to capture that data, what it means, and how to use it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's something we're heavily focusing on. I think one of the areas, like when I first started, I found this CTO that I didn't end up going with, but he's like, yeah, you need a product designer and you need a UX person and a product manager. I'm like, what do you need all that for? Why can't we just go hire devs directly? And he was like, no, you have to like map everything out. And actually, like, design was one of the areas we've skimped out on in the first couple of years. And then we noticed it bit us back in the butt because you did have all those features, but the user doesn't want to take all those steps. And recently, we recently hired, like about a year ago, we hired a founding designer. Now we're hiring a couple more, and we're bringing design into the process and looking at how can we eliminate all the steps possible? How can we go back to the customer? And just because it's Alex's genius idea, that doesn't mean that Alex is the typical restorer. And like you said, how can we meet the customer where they're at?
Yes.
And then the final thing is, like, there's so much data that should not be manually inputted. So like I know in other systems that I've used, like it's like the workflow is something along the lines of sign the work authorization, then go move the job into status sold, and then go update the date of work authorization signed, and then go put a note that you signed the work authorization. That's like 4 freaking steps for one thing, right? Yeah. Whereas like, how can you simplify that into one step? Yes. The user signs the work authorization, it automatically moves everything through it, automatically populates the date, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And that's what we're toying around with. We've also brought in like payments into our system, so now we have visibility into true payments versus having somebody enter in and say, oh yeah, I did collect a payment. It's like, nope, it's right here, like you can see it. Phone call tracking and stuff like that. So
yeah, we've got to keep the learning curve low. And you know, some software, it was painful, but we had to kill a lot of babies, right? These great ideas that we thought we had, and then you just...
people don't adopt them.
No, and it's like, that's just, I mean, it sounds great, but it's not really actually going to work. So, I mean, so you hit on something there. It's like we learned that lesson when we built, I told you this earlier, privately, we built SWAT Track. Okay. It was our first venture into the software world.
Interesting.
And we pioneered that concept of passing a task digitally from person A to person B. So when somebody marked a task done in SWAT Track, it would create automatically the next task in sequence for the next person to work on, and would show up on their dashboard.
Similar like the compliance tasks. And,
exactly. Yeah. So this was the first, it was back in the 90s.
Wow.
So we innovated that, right? In fact, the same guy that wrote the code for that is my CTO for Integra now. Nice. We've done this before. And then that software was sold off. JP was the next iteration, and then Dash was the final iteration. So what we did in the 90s was the precursor to what is largely now Dash in terms of that type of functionality. So
JPP was bought or turned into Dash?
I left the organization after 9/11 and sold my shares to my brothers, and so I backed out of that whole universe and never really I didn't want to get too hands-on with that. So I don't know all the details of that story. I just kind of generally followed the bouncing ball.
Got it.
And quickly understood how what we had pioneered ultimately turned into something that is quite ubiquitous.
Interesting.
Restoration.
Man, this goes way back. We're talking about 30 years of restoration tech being a thing. And at the same token, we started so long ago, yet we're still so far behind. It's crazy.
It didn't come as fast as I had thought it would. So even back in the late 80s, and of course back in the late 80s, PCs were just new on the market. I remember this one story. I was at this event. And obviously I'm starting to tell my age here. But I went to an industry event with a bunch of restoration contractors in Arizona. And I remember this table, and it was all these old guys that had businesses going back to the 40s and the 50s and the 60s in Arizona, right? These old restoration companies, there's only a handful of them. And I walked by the table, and I overheard one guy say, I'm not going to get no goddamn computer in my office. I don't need that bullshit. And I just internally smiled.
Little do they know.
You are going to be gone.
Yeah.
You're going to be gone. And so I understood what technology was going to do to the industry very early on. And we wanted that integration. Like we had, an Xactimate came on the market, and we had an Exact account, which was just garbage at the time, right? And then other software.
It was in DOS back in the day, right?
Yes,
like green and black screen.
Doing DOS computing. It was all command line back then. This is even before Windows even existed. So we're doing command line. For business, it was unbelievable.
So what mind boggles me is like, why are we so, like, would you agree with the statement that we're really behind now? Like, if you compare restoration to plumbers, if you compare restoration to any other trade or any other industry, I mean, insurance is kind of behind. I mean, State Farm agents are still writing policies in DOS, but like, let's put that aside. Compared to most other industries, we agree with the statement that restoration is behind in tech.
Absolutely, yes.
Why are we so behind, given the fact that there's been 30 years of tech in the space?
Alex, I think it's the same reason we're behind in everything. There's nothing really sort of new under the sun. Corporate America has figured all this stuff out.
Okay.
And eventually, we kind of pay attention to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then we adopt it for ourselves in some way.
Of course.
And so we follow that one.
Yep.
There just hasn't been it's been about people in this industry. Most are in restoration, and they're running restoration companies.
Yep.
It's rare that somebody like myself or like you that leaves that world and says, I'm going to leave my restoration company, but I'm going to stay in the industry and find a way to support it.
Got it.
The number of people that do that and do that well is relatively small.
Got it.
And so there hasn't been a lot of brain power, frankly, going into this effort to find ways of developing new technologies as a way of supporting and helping the industry.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm realizing is, so like obviously I stepped away from the day-to-day of the restoration business, went into software, but like running a software business is so much different than running a restoration business, right? Yeah. Like, the way the business is valued, like you're talking about like 80% gross profit, but cash flow negative companies. And your CAC payback is like 14 to 16 months, right? Like it takes you a year and a half to pay back a customer after you're like completely different dynamics. So I realized like, it's almost like you have to get the stars aligned. You need a person from the restoration industry that knows the restoration side.
Right.
Then you need a strong CTO that genuinely knows how to build product. And I think like, I mean, I don't want to bash anybody, but I think like a couple of the other up and coming early exits of restoration software have been like weak CTOs or an offshore agency that just kind of, helped out that CEO that was maybe had a strong founder market fit. And it's like, no, you actually need a CTO that's aligned. And then the third thing that I feel like most people that want to build resto tech that come to the restoration industry, they don't understand the cost. Like we started with a $400,000 to $500,000 budget.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We've spent $12 million and barely covered the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Like people don't understand the magnitude of capital it takes to build software. And it's very hard, I think, to build software companies with your EBITDA being the limitation of the R&D. So like think about it this way. Let's say you get to a $3 million software company, right? And it's spitting out, I don't know, $1 million of cash. Whoa, right? It's really hard to build stuff with only $1 million a year getting reinvested. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even if you're willing to give up the whole farm and go, zero EBITDA, zero cash flow. So it's really a tough business to run.
Well, I think for that reason, it's another reason why you don't see a lot of people doing this.
Exactly. It's a long run thing. I mean, it's a very long haul game.
Yes. And you have to go in with a great deal of commitment.
Yeah.
It's not something you're going to dabble in.
That explains.
Especially if the vision is big, you need a serious commitment to make it happen.
I'm just fully spitballing now, but what if we can solve that problem in the sense of like a incubator or like an innovations hub or something like that? Like what if a few of these people that are servicing the industry and successfully doing it can kind of align somehow and create a hub or like a petri dish where other people from the industry that have great ideas can come learn about these things? Like for example, like at Albee, we provide a lot of help to like the Kahis of the world and whatnot in like letting them know what like customer dynamic looks like, what metrics could look like, what retention could look like, how to go to market, how to do all of these things. Like I wonder if we can create some sort of community of people that are trying to innovate within the space and do like a little mini peer group or whatnot to share that information so that way it inspires people.
I think that always works. I think that always works. Anytime you bring smart people together under a common purpose and vision, it's going to pay off. Why not do that? I've done some outrageous things with that, and it still works. Like before I started with Pivot, I actually started with a peer group in Phoenix proper for competitors. I sat in a room with 10 different competitors in the same city, and they were willing to talk shop and talk numbers and talk strategy. That blew me away.
That's awesome.
That blew me away, right? The normal peer group model is you put people in from different industries, different territories, right? And you don't have that
But that's what's super powerful, because like, especially in Arizona, like I've got a client in Tempe who's like, we get monsoon season and then we get dry season. And then he's like, am I freaking out? Is it slow? Is this normal? Is this not? Like, are other people getting work or not? And then they talk across amongst each other and they're like, no, this is just a dry season.
But even having competitors having that conversation amazes me every time.
Exactly.
Right? Somebody I don't know across the country, I have the conversation with, it's harmless, right?
Exactly.
But a direct competitor?
Yeah, but abundance mindset. Like, there's plenty of work to go around.
I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. The other part is I had started back in 2010 or 2011, the Arizona Growth Foundation. And for the first time, we brought together all the startup accelerators, the angel investors, right? Lots of VCs, lots of investors, and formed that foundation, which was interesting because, again, these people are generally sort of competing in a lot of ways. So to have them in the same room together was remarkable. And this was a lot of people. We had like 100.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of money, a lot of brain power sitting in that room. We ended up trying to pass some legislation in Arizona to create what's called a fund of funds. It was a $400 million fund where those monies could be used for helping startups and these companies sort of go off the ground. The program in Utah worked fabulously. It worked out really, really well. If you drive up I-15 through Salt Lake City, you see nothing but all these company names you've never heard of before, right? These growing tech firms and whatnot. So the program was remarkably successful. It failed in Arizona due to the politics in Arizona, unfortunately. But my point is that, again, bringing people together, even if they're in competitive relationships or there's some overlap, I think it's always a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think only good, I think, can come from that. And I think it takes a high level of emotional intelligence, right, and an awareness that it is an abundance mentality, and the fact that in the end we're all competing against ourselves anyway. So why not go for the greater good?
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, it takes the way I see it is like even our competitors. Like, if I could raise the standard for our competitors to, I think like the fundamental thing and why people aren't deploying capital in R&D in restoration is they don't think the industry is big enough. They don't think the industry is good enough. They don't think they'll get a return on investment. And I feel like if we could take those early bets, which we've been doing, we prove that out for the industry. Other people follow along. Sure, they're my competitors, and maybe I don't get those customers, but at the end of the day, it raises the bar for the entire industry as a whole, right? And it's one of those things of I can't serve all restorers. You can't serve all restorers, but like imagine if all consulting agencies took a data-driven approach.
Right.
We'd make restoration a beautiful place. Imagine if all vertical SaaS companies took a product user first, hired designers, you know, integrated payments and all that. Then it's like I don't want it to be like between vendor A and vendor B, I'm going to pick A because there's such a big difference. Like that's the utopia of, you know, the capitalistic society. But the reality is I would love for an industry to have multiple options where there's close gaps in competition. Because that's how an entire industry can move forward.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, you asked the question, is the industry big enough? Do people think it's big enough to support this? And honestly, I don't know. My strategy is to start in restoration, but obviously we're going to be moving quickly into all construction-related service businesses because the problem I'm trying to solve here is not unique to restoration. Whereas I realize a lot of companies, like yours included, the platform is really geared toward this type of industry. I don't know your plans or if it's customizable for other service businesses. That might be something to think about. Yeah. Because I think it would open up more possibilities.
So we keep that card in our back pocket. Yeah. But I have super strong conviction that this industry is way larger by an order of magnitude than most people think it is.
Absolutely.
And that, I would say even my advice to you, if I may, is stick to restoration because you dilute focus, even if it's just a go-to-market focus.
Agreed.
And just hyper-focus on restoration because, like, I mean, we're raising our Series B right now, and, you know, we have some funds that have done a lot of work on market study and stuff like that. Bain also did a market study for Summit Partners when they bought DocuSketch. But, like, this industry is huge.
Yes.
And the way you know it is I bet you I'll name off, 50, restorers that you've probably never even heard of, and you'll name off 50, and we're talking about restorers over $2 to $3 million of EBITDA, and we're like, wait, what? right? And everybody thinks this industry is tight knit because these small shows are pretty close, right? But like, no, the 500 to 1,000 people that come at RA is just a droplet of the entire industry.
It is much
and
larger.
It's so
You're
fragmented.
Right.
So
you're exactly right.
Yeah.
And I have no intention. I mean, we're obviously going to succeed in restoration primarily. That's where we're going to learn the lessons that you got to learn when you're rolling out a software program. Right? This industry that we know best. However, all of the infrastructure on the back end is
scalable.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And is being built in mind for that expansion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good to keep that in the back pocket. So, but cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming out. I mean, I know this view is not the best view, so it was really a struggle to sit here. But nice in the shade and such. Yeah. But if people were to want to find you and ask you a question, where could they do that?
Well, start with the pivotmybiz.com website.
Okay.
It's probably the simplest thing to do there. Or you can send an email to me directly. Awesome. I'm happy to respond to emails at john@pivotmybiz.com.
Perfect. We'll throw it down in the description here.
Happy to do that.
Awesome.
We're trying to, as I say, reach out more into the industry now, and to, because I think we're ready to help people, and that's been my motive. I just want to help. I think it's grossly unfair that people go through what they go through to try to survive in business, and I think that we have a divine mission
I love
to
that.
do something about this.
I love that.
To make our lives on this planet worthwhile. And so when you walk away, it's like, okay, no, I did some good in the world.
Wow. You really landed the plane very well there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.